Hey, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Great to see so many of you and some familiar names. For those of you who don't know me, I am Elisa Streifler. I am a Senior Customer Success Manager here at Helpshift, and I'm really excited to be one of your hosts today. And on today's call, we'll be sharing lots of information with you about what's happening with the support system that we're building. And the idea is to keep this session as interactive as possible. So you will see on your screens, there's a Q&A button. So please use that if you have any questions. And I think we'll just give it a couple more minutes before we get started. I can see more people are joining. So while we're waiting just for a couple more attendees, many of you who are tuning in may or may not know, but Helpshift has merged with the Keywords Studios family. And this welcome slide, we're seeing some creative imagery celebrating the 25 years of Keywords Studios existence. So that's pretty incredible. And before we get started, I'd like to just ask you a quick question and get a bit of a feel as to how familiar you are with Keywords Studios. So audience, if you'll go and click on the small green S button on the lower right, you should see a poll. And yeah, if you can answer and let us know how familiar you are with keywords, we'll get a bit of a feel as to where we are. Okay. All right. Okay, I think we're ready to get going. And I'm really pleased to be co-hosting today with Peter Gerson, who is the head of the Global Customer Experience and Player Engagement Solutions at Keywords Studios. But before that, I'm just going to show you our agenda. So if we could jump to the agenda. So today, after the introductions, we're going to be talking to you about Helpshift Engage, the Keywords Engage branch of Keywords Studios, and we'll be hearing from Peter, who will be talking to you about that a bit more. I'll bring him on the stage in just a moment. And then we will explore what the next generation of player support looks like and how together, under the same umbrella, Keywords Studios and Helpshift, we can bring you an end-to-end support ecosystem. And finally, we'll show you a client example that achieved some great results. So without further ado, I'll bring to the stage Peter Gerson, and I'm going to let Peter introduce himself. Peter, you're on mute.
Technology, the great way to start from a technology company and being on mute. Hey, welcome everybody, and great for us to be able to. It's going to be a great Thursday when I already see the turnout. The music was fine, we're buzzing. My opportunity to present with Elisa, which is great. Welcome to the family. So, as global head of CX at Keywords, it's our role to look at how we can actually put end-to-end, following the sun for you, the solution that you really need, covering community, trusted safety, and player support. And so we're going to jump straight in, and let me tell you a little bit more about where we fit in the family and how it all hangs together. So if we can jump to the next slide, it'll be very, very cool. Yeah. So there's some of the art. I always like to start with a slide because everything you see there was produced in a studio somewhere within Keywords. And if we can jump to the next slide, please. So 70 odd studios worldwide with just over 12,000 people is the Keywords family today. And to keep things as simple as possible, we're divided into 3 divisions: create, globalize, and engage. And create's everything to do with getting that game ready for the players. So from really early concept art right the way through to a rock solid game that's ready for the players to play through its alpha and beta stages and ready for soft or final launch. On that journey, you're going to obviously deal with game development, audio development, and art services in building out that game. And that's what Keywords is famous for. But globalize is where the roots of Keywords, going back to 25 years, started as a localization and translation company. and moved very quickly into gaming as a speciality, because across the Keywords family, that's what we focus on, video games and video games only. We'll have 1 or 2 odd clients that aren't in the business, but literally 98% of all our clients are in the media and video games space. And so in Globalize, we look at, making that game ready for the players with the functional testing, the localization, and any of the QA services. We're the Engage family, and that's what really, where the rubber hits the road. Once you're ready and the players are ready playing the game, you've got them there. We have an end-to-end solution where we're across 20 locations across the world, 2,400 employees. And it's anything around the acquisition services, marketing services, building your trailers, building your strategy around how you're going to engage social media, how you're going to engage in community, building up the brand and PR, doing the market research and insights and the strategy around that, and giving you feedback of how players interact with the game in our studios, where you can actually have players play the game and with eye and hand coordination, see what they're doing on each screen. And then it comes into the actual retention and the engagement of the players with trust and safety, community, and player support, which we'll talk about now. Next slide, please. So we talk about 5 pillars, because the one thing we don't want to do is make the impression that things are siloed. Very, very interactive. With strategy and insight, you can actually find out, what is happening with your players and the game. Helps you building out your campaigns and creating trailers and making things look stunning, in attracting them to the game to play the game, and obviously any communications around that. The bridge between that whole process, the first 3 on the left, is the community, because community starts very early when you start to run out with the players, but then it becomes the space in which everyone engages around the game. And then it's supporting those players within that community with the player engagement services, as we've said. Next slide, please. Oops, it seems, there we go. So why are you here today? And some of the value we want to try to carry to you is like, what should player support be? How can we incorporate the best of breed and the right technological platforms and the right human touch of services to create the seamless touch that everyone talks about in terms of multi-channel and multilingual support. Next slide, please. So we call it the player happiness infinity loop. And what we mean by an infinity loop is obviously players that are engaged play more, spend more, and become great ambassadors for your game. And everything we're about in the engagement setup is around making sure that players are happy and that they're engaged. So when we look at what we think is the great environment for the next generation of player support, you have your player surrounded by a trust and safety envelope, because you have to make sure these days that it is a safe and welcoming environment for the players to be. It's got to comply with the data privacy rules. It's got to comply with certain security rules in terms of cheating, hacking, and the things that make a game more safe for players. It's got to be cost efficient, because at the end of the day, as much as this is a retention strategy and helps drive your ROI of your game, it's still got to be done in a way that is budgetary sensible. So it's got to be cost efficient. And we try and set it up in such a way that agents are always happy, because engaged and happy agents definitely create happy players. And you can see that if you look at the previous slide where we had the 5 verticals of how we provide services, anywhere along the infinity loop in a modern setup game, certainly games as a service, and where you're continually changing, there's events, the game's moving, there's updates to things like your FAQs and the way you engage with your players, you're going to need to be able to reach out and have a service that does help you at that point in time just keep the players happy and engaged. So at any one point in time on the infinity loop, you can go back to more brand building or new trailers or adding stuff around events or do more research, get some feedback. And that's all seamlessly tied into the engaged division. Within the trust and safety envelope, you can see that you're now talking about some of the human touch, where we just spoke about the marketing services, the bridge that keeps everything together. And the core is the community and social media setup. So from how you build your Discord and integrate it, how you put the bots into Discord, how you tie in any of your other social media channels like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, how does that lead into if someone needs to reach out to you for help, and then, you know, empower the agents and the player support setup using the key technological platforms that now are available. So then you have the player infinity loop, and it's the thing that we live, breathe, and die for in terms of the work we have to do for you. Next slide, please. So often I have this, I'm on a mission and I'm passionate about this. And often we have this discussion where people say, like, we're in a group and I ask the question of a group of developers or a new studio or a game's coming, and I'll say, like, what's the first question? You know, and they'll say, what kind of game are we going to build? It's going to be genre. Is it going to be first person shooter, RPG, MMO? And I'm like, no, that's not the first question. The first question has to be, who's going to play the game? Who's going to play the game? And I go, okay, fair enough. And then, well, then what kind of game? No. The second question is, when they come and play the game, how are you going to look after them? So we really like to push to work with every one of our customers and potential friends who become partners with us over time, that you don't have to spend money with us, but you should plan with us early on of how you want to look after the players when they come to play the game. There's some strategy requirements, specifications. Are you going to have in-game support? Are you going to build it out? How are you going to automate? Some of these ideas should be when you're building the game out, because when you can do it at that stage, you save so much time and money if it's already built into the process, rather than post-production and now trying to make things match and integrate to the back end. It's so much more difficult and never actually achieves the same results. Then during the production phase, you're implementing, that's where you're going to start implementing which of the ticketing CRMs we're going to use, how's the admin portal going to look, what do we need to integrate in at the back end, what knowledge bases, and how are we going to set these things up. These are the key areas. And then when you look at the iteration, you're now starting to engage in the early stages of your testing, alpha and beta, and before soft launch. You can start to run things like your player automation playbook. You can look at your feedback loop. You can start to really get an idea of what was planned. Is it actually working, and does it need some changes, or does it need some tweaking? And then once the game is live, it's around scaling iteration, ramping up quickly, ramping down quickly, being able to move to the market, being able to carry and manage for the events in games as a service type environment. How do you, keep the CRM updated? How do you keep your FAQ? How do you keep your knowledge base? All these types of processes. So I just wanted to put that on the page over and above the infinity loop process in setting the scene of that's what a player environment when you're building out a top class support system should look like. Let's go to the next slide, please. So what should it be doing? What should it deliver? What are the important key things? Lots of games can play across many different platforms. And you may have games that are on different platforms, even though you may have one game that's just on mobile or one game that might be on PC, but you can also have games that play across these days. So that's the first thing, is that you should be able to build, or from the iteration and design stage, understand that your support setup should be able to manage any of these platforms. And then there's some key ideas. It should be around that player infinity loop. It should keep them happy, engaged, and very easy for them to use. It shouldn't be hidden away and hard, where there's a button like really hidden away. When they finally play, they click it, they say, please go to this website and fill in a form. That's just not a great experience. It should treat them special and personalized. If you already have them engaged, they are on your platform, they're engaging the game, you know who they are. The support and the agents that are managing the process in the support should be able to reach out to the person in a personalized way. And with the AI and the bots today, you can do that automated. It isn't that it requires a human. It's the entire process should be able to have contextual support for them. Where necessary, it moves seamlessly and quickly to the human, and the human doesn't have to ask all the same questions again. There's a genuine interaction, and the player is engaged and happy. The key thing here is respecting time. They're spending their time and their money playing the game, and respecting that time and giving them the help as soon and as quickly as they need it is the key thing. The time to first response and the speed of response are the key drivers of CSAT. And so your system should be geared towards delivering that. And wherever possible, respecting cultural differences and cultural nuances, supporting them in their language. And of course, proactive support, so it gets them engaged. If there's a trend coming in that players are reporting something and you pick up on that, proactively reach out to the community and proactively link to all the channels to say, we are aware that this latest release has this issue and we're working on it. Thanks for bringing it to our attention. If you log in now, you can all have 1 free coin, and we'll let you know how things are going. Saves a ton of time of having to deal with incoming tickets telling you the same thing over and over again, and is again respecting your players and showing them that you care and you're telling them that what's going on. Let's jump to the next slide, please. So we want to talk about a joint service offering and how we believe we deliver this modern and top of the line support, engagement and experience for the customers. So let's jump to the next slide, please. The human touch is still key. We're all hearing how AI is going to take every one of our jobs. I'm the first to say, having had a long and illustrious career, bring it on. I'll go and lie in a hammock in Bermuda with a cocktail in my hand. I don't mind if AI does the job. But let's be quite frank, it's not going to happen just yet. And if it does, it's going to happen in phases, and it's going to happen in a way that should make it easier for us to do our jobs. There's a ton of things that AI can do better than us, that speed us up and make us better at being able to deliver our service. But there's still a huge amount to be said. You're all on a call listening to us. We're a human interaction today, and it's really a cool experience to be able to talk to each other. So in building out your ideal situation, there are 3 key things that deliver on that player infinity loop of happiness. And that's one-on-one player support is accessible. And if they want a human and they press here. And the thing is, you never know when a player wants to talk to a human. Quite often, they just want the self-help. They want to get it done. They want to get it done as quickly as possible. But there are times that they are unsure or they want to ask. Have that available and have it available on the channel that matters. Trust and safety and moderation is critical. It used to be a nice to have, not in the modern world. There are tons of legislative issues coming. There are tons of privacy laws. And there are also, it makes common good business sense to make the players feel safe and engaged in the environment. So build out a robust trust and safety system that's integrated and hooked. It's not a separate silo somewhere where you're having people troll to see who they can ban today just to make lives a bit difficult. It's about proactive engagement. 94 to 96% of all players are positive and want to work within the system. Enhance and support and reward that behavior so that it takes the bad actors out of the picture, and be precise on exactly what the rules and regulations are and how you then take the bad actors out and make it very difficult for them to be in your environment. And then, as I said, the bridge to everything and the whole thing, everything's about community. The more engaged players are in any type of clan in the system, the more they're engaged in the community, the more that's shared, the more they feel they need to log in every day and help their team and help themselves and be part of this community. So the community is that bridge. And again, it should be well integrated with a strong strategy that is easy to triage, to support, or vice versa, if there's a reason to talk to the community at large about issues. And these are where the human touch sits on top of the technology and makes it all happen. I'm going to hand back to the lovely Elisa now, who's going to do more about the next things that we think are important beyond the human touch.
Thank you, Peter. Can we move to the next slide, please, Kent? Thank you. So together, Helpshift and Keywords, we can provide you the whole complete global player support solution. So looking at the different layers on this slide, so Helpshift's aim is to really engage your player where they're at. So regardless what channel they're using to play their game, Helpshift has a solution. So for PC, web, mobile and tablet, console, and the virtual reality. And of course, the social media integrations as well, so that we are where your players collaborate. The second layer is where we have the bots and the AI, and the Helpshift SDK is really, it has all the AI and the bots embedded, and it's really lightweight and easy to plug into your games. And we will be adding the language AI capability in these next 6 to 9 months so that the agents can seamlessly communicate with players, and you can also translate your bots and your FAQs into multiple languages. And the bottom layer then is the keywords, the player support services layer. So if your player needs to speak to an agent, there's the Helpshift agent ticketing tool, and we have the player support services available to you now as well, all under the same umbrella. So the complete package. Next slide, please, Kent. Okay. So why is Helpshift best in class in in-game support? So as I mentioned, the SDK has all the bots and the AI built in, and it's a very lightweight SDK. So it's all ready to go in the SDK. You just plug that into your game. And we can provide support in the asynchronous mode, and we are also launching a new live chat experience. So your players will be able to switch from asynchronous to live chat with agents as they wish. And response times are expedited because the bots are purpose-built. And our AI tool, it understands the player's intent, and it is able to route the player's issue correctly to the right workflow, whether that is an agent or whether that is a bot workflow. Again, the issue resolution is expedited. And the bots can then be used to handle the more routine issues. So you can have issues that are fully automated, or you can have a mixture of issues where you have some bot interaction. For example, you use bots to collect information and pass that on to the agent. You can also segment your workflows. So if you want to offer white glove service to your VIPs and offer full automation to free players, any way you wish to segment your support, that can be done by using Helpshift. Next slide, please, Kent. Now, some of you will be familiar with this slide because this is a slide that your CSMs will present to you during QBRs. And I know some of my clients that I see on the call today will be very familiar with this because we go over this quarterly. This is the modern support journey with Helpshift, and it shows all the different elements that fall into the modern support journey. The purpose of the modern support journey, in a nutshell, is when your player has a problem, is to really guide the player as quickly as possible to a solution so that they stay in game and continue playing the game. And in the channel offerings lane, which is there at the top, the idea is to have minimal number of issues coming in via email, because that's when the player has to go and type an email, leave the game. So the idea is to really have as much of the issue volume coming in through the in-app channels. And for routing, I already mentioned we have a great tool called Smart Intents, which predicts the player's intent, and it can then trigger the correct workflow and get the player to the end solution quickly. And deflection is, of course, a key part. Enabling your players to find answers in the FAQs. Our modern help center has the great capabilities for you to customize the feel and to really bring it into your brand. And then we also have the quick search bot, which is a tool that provides you with an additional ability to deflect tickets. So before a ticket is created, it will suggest 3 FAQs. So again, the idea is to really have this funnel where majority of your players will find responses via FAQs and self-service. Then there will be some issues that are handled by bots. And finally, the more complex issues will be then handled by agents. And then we have the automation layer. As I mentioned already, the custom bots can be used to either collect information and pass that on to agents, or you can have workflows that have partially automated and where your player will immediately get a response from a bot, and it will make life for the agents a bit easier as well because they already have the information from the bot. So it stops this kind of ping pong between the agent and the player where information needs to be collected. So bots are great for that purpose. And of course, you can have fully automated workflows. And we also have what we call more complex API bots that can connect to your backend systems. So you can push and pull information. For example, if you want to issue refunds, etc. So more complex workflows can be achieved via bots as well. And the final lane is the post resolution. So that's where you have your CSAT question. In addition to that, we have launched feedback bots, which is a tool that allows you to ask further questions. So for example, if you have players leaving you low CSAT ratings, you can ask them why that was. Was it the agent experience, the player experience? Was it something particular that triggered them to leave you that low CSAT rating? And that way you can then go and make amendments to whatever it is that your players weren't happy with. So you'll have a better understanding of what your players are thinking. So that's the different segments of the modern support journey. Next slide, please, Kent. And this slide illustrates the language AI capability and how simple and straightforward it is. So the player will reach out to log an issue in their native language. That will then be directed to the AI language translating tool, and that will then be passed on to the agent in the agent's default language. The agent then responds, and again, the response gets translated into the player's native language. And this is a seamless exercise where there's no delays, and it is available 24/7. So again, the need to have several agents in different languages goes away. You will now be able to have communications with agents in multiple languages, regardless whether the agent speaks that language or not. Next slide, please, Kent. And this slide illustrates how simple it will be to set up the language AI tool in Helpshift when it becomes available. So for example, if you want to publish your FAQs in multiple languages, you would choose your default language, and then you would choose the languages that you want to have that FAQs translated into. And it's as simple as that, just a click of a button and your FAQs are translated into multiple languages. It really couldn't be simpler. Next slide, please, Kent. And yeah, this slide is just summarizes the language capabilities that you will have with Helpshift when we launch the native language AI experience in Helpshift, as I mentioned, in the next 6 to 9 months. That's the goal. So you will be able to translate your FAQs, your bot workflows. You will be able to have the language support from the agents, all seamlessly in multiple languages, available 24/7. So indeed, very, very simple, and just takes away that need for agents who speak multiple languages, or for your players to have to send you emails in languages that they don't feel comfortable with. So we will really provide a much better player experience. Next slide, please, Kent. So why work with Helpshift and Keywords? What are the benefits? So the benefits are outlined on this slide. And just to emphasize again that Keywords Studios has been in the gaming industry for 20+ years. So we're looking at a company that really knows the gaming industry. And in addition to that, Helpshift is really knows the gaming clients as well. We have 12 of the top 20 gaming studios as our clients, and we have 300+ gaming clients in our client portfolio. So you're really looking at two companies who know their gaming. And there was a natural synergy between these two companies. So it creates a really nice ecosystem where you have this 24/7 support seamlessly. And as I mentioned, now available in multiple languages. And Peter already shared with you the slide that shows that there is truly global coverage. And you can achieve the kind of speed, speed of being a keyword. I think in every single slide when I illustrated the modern support journey, etc., you could see that, with Helpshift, the idea is really to get the player to a response quickly. And all the tools that Helpshift have are designed to really increase the speed at which your players get their responses. And of course, flexibility, no more onerous contracts where you're tied in long term. A Keyword Studios allows you to scale up and scale down quickly as needed. So those are really some of the key benefits that you will get with Helpshift and Keywords. Next slide, please, Kent. Okay, I'm going to hand you back over to Peter now. He's going to share with you a case study of a Helpshift and Keywords Studios clients. Back over to you, Peter.
Thanks, Elisa. Exciting, exciting. So obviously, before I jump into the case study, just to paint the picture, Keywords and Helpshift worked together for many years, but at every single client, it was still Helpshift and a contract, and usually some kind of tools integration, and then the player support piece and some kind of custom support integration, siloed at the client and siloed between us. And whilst we did cooperate and do well, the coming together of one seamless team, where it doesn't matter if the client is siloed on the tool side, the access and the ability for the customer support division in your company to be able to seamlessly have all the parts available to you is what leads to this. While we've alluded to what's coming for a completely built-in seamless process for machine translation has been available for a while. Keywords has had that capability, as you saw in our Engage slide, where we're part of this bigger family. Localization has been using AI and tools for many years to localize, and we have our own engines, and they're gaming engines. It's the one advantage we have over the rest of the market is tons and tons of gaming engines that are specifically there for translation in the gaming space. So we already do provide machine translation. If it's something that you're interested in, please reach out and we can talk to you. But right now it is still two disparate systems. The benefit, however, is you have to deal only with one provider in putting everything together. And in most cases out there right now, if you had to build a similar process, you'd have to deal with 3 providers, manage all of that, and it's all on you. Where with us, it's all on us. You only just have to deal with us. So we can provide machine translation now. What we're busy doing is building it seamlessly out the box into another one of the AI tools within the Helpshift suite, so that it's just delivered and you turn it on when you need it. You don't use it, that's fine. So the case study shows exactly that. We piloted initially. Go to the next slide, please, Kent. So a leading mobile developer that's been a client from ours since 2017 came to us in 2021 and said, we really need to improve our player experience. And we also are hugely under pressure at the moment. We really need to reduce our multilingual support by 25%. So how do we do that? And so we looked at how this could work, given all of the expertise we have. And remember, at this time when we started this pilot, it was still, Helpshift wasn't part of the family yet, but we still worked very closely with them. And we said it was one of the reasons why it made sense in time that they became part of the family. This is one of the projects that led to that. Because what we looked at was, okay, if we work really smartly together with the client as a partner, ourselves and Keywords, and our capability on machine translation with AI, how can we make this work? So we started with just 4 games in 2 languages and did a lot of A/B testing. And we chose difficult languages to make sure that we weren't choosing the easy path. And so we used German as one of the languages, which you know is not the easiest process, and did some A/B testing. And what we found was, as we got better at understanding the workflow and better at understanding how the whole process should come together, because why is the use case different here? Localization is available. You can get really good translations even now with ChatGPT. The thing is, though, it's a bulk of words that gets translated and it comes back. The key is, how do you build it into the workflow that an agent does not have to leave the desktop, that the player gets the speed of response and it isn't going through a whole lot of hoops and then comes back. So the speed of response and staying in a simple system are far more important than actually the accuracy of the translation, believe it or not. The CSAT and all the testing we did with A/B testing showed that the quicker we were able to respond with a reasonably translated answer, as long as we were transparent, saying, we can get this back to you really quickly, but it's not native. Is that okay? Or do you want to wait 24 hours for a native translation? That's the A/B testing you do on the languages. And every time the player chose for the quick, speedy response. And if they were happy with the response, they gave a reasonable CSAT. And initially the CSAT was slightly down, but then the engines kick in and they learn. And within 2 months, 3 months, the CSAT actually went up. So let's move to the next slide, please, Ken. So deploying that, we said, okay, what are the next steps? How do we make this work more closely together? How can we make it look like it's one process? And so that was guiding the management and implementation of the AI and integrating more tightly with the Helpshift system including that whole workflow for the player as well as for the agent. And then reviewing that translation over and over and over again to make sure that we could cut the time down. And we were getting times on the difficult languages where in the total time of the ticket, it was adding between 5 and 10 seconds max, which is really where you save money. And that's the keys. Remember, we spoke about cost efficiency. You can add translation quite straightforwardly to most things as a third-party process. What you tend to do is you tend to drive ticket volume up, and you also tend to drive translation costs up. So you need to be managing that quickly. So using the flexibility of now a team that's trained for gaming, knows the game, have huge experience. The most volume of tickets that come in for any games worldwide is still English. It's the most diverse range of issues. And those teams are constantly busy, constantly being updated, constantly have the most up-to-date FAQs, etc. in most situations. So they're the best game team to answer the question once it's translated and they have context to which they need to answer. And so we found that that helped really drive the cost down, the efficiency up, and the experience better. So the CSAT improved. Let's move to the next slide. So what did it translate into? Where's the ROI in what we're building out in terms of that whole player infinity loop, our whole technology process for you, and then the human touch? Remember, they wanted to get a better player experience and they wanted to save money. 25% was the aim. Non-English ticket cost came down by 30%. And the CSAT increased by 7%. And the genuine overall, if you look at the history, the company's been working with us in 2017, but they have history going beyond. They have tons of titles. And with their whole range of titles, the forecast for the year last year was that they were going to spend just on 6 million to manage the player support environment. It's quite a lot of money to spend. At the end of the day, implementing the system from the pilot into the full-blown stage of supporting 9 languages across their games and reorganizing the team and the workflow, which we successfully did through the iteration of pilots into a full-blown launch. In 2022, the bottom line was 984,000 was saved of what was projected to be spent. Now, that may not translate into a reality in your setup because you're smaller, you have less volume. But relatively speaking, these are the results you can get. So we'd really want to be talking to you over time to see how we can help manage this process end to end with you. And so on that note, I think we're moving to a question and answer session. I'm not sure, Kent, but that was the case study. I see some questions have come in already, so maybe we can jump in there. Yeah, a question that was asked there was, how long would it take to deploy machine translation, and is it separate? So as I said, at the moment, it is not built into Helpshift, but the way we set it up is seamless. And to all intents and purposes for your team, it is one process. Right now, though, it is 2 separate platforms that are integrated. It will become built fully into Helpshift out the box as an embedded AI system. Another question, maybe Elisa, you want to grab one of those?
Yeah. How long do you anticipate it will take for your agents to develop a deep understanding of our business and game, as well as the needs and expertise of it? I think that's best suited for you, Peter.
Yeah, great question. That's a great question. It depends on the game. It depends on what you already have set up as training material and what is available. To onboard an agent in our internal system is 3 days from start to finish. And then working with our clients, it's usually a week's training with nesting. And then in the second week, they're ready to start. If you look at a 30, 60, 90-day plan with a team rolling out small or large, that's usually where you start to see that in that first month, everything comes together. In that second month, you start to see the improvements. And in the third month, we should be meeting all your service levels and KPIs. So that's roughly how long it takes to put the team out there. In terms of an agent, it's usually a week to 10 days on a game to be ready to start taking questions. If the game's highly complicated and it's a very interesting ecosystem and it has complexities around some of the monetization, What we tend to do is start earlier with you and build out playbooks and do our train-the-trainer process, where we then put in what we call subject matter experts and trainers to have a tier 2 support for the agents. And they have more time to play the game consistently and be behind there to support agents. But if it's a more standard type setup, you usually can have agents from the time you start the hiring process, ink's dry on the contract and you say, press the button, to the time an agent goes live is usually around 4 weeks. There's the final recruiting and testing process, especially if it's languages. Certain languages can take longer. So something like Japanese or Korean, sometimes German, can take up to 8 weeks to have from the time you start the recruiting process to having an agent go live. But the actual process of the way we can have our agents go is usually a week.
I think the next couple of questions tie nicely with that. There's another question about how long do you anticipate it will take for your agents to develop? Oh, no, sorry. Is there a minimum number of agents? That's the one I'm looking at.
Great question. We start with a minimum of around 80 hours. For a dedicated agent, that's around 80 hours is the minimum we'll go. We do have an on-demand system where you can just pay for time used. It's quite a lot more expensive. And what I find is that for most games, it's not the best way to go because it's a first come, first serve shared pool of agents that will answer tickets that come in from a variety of places, but it could be a way to start. So if you're looking at having a dedicated project, you need around a minimum of 80 hours of work, which is not too onerous. We do start small and scale. A lot of our projects start small before they scale.
And how much time do you need in terms of notice given when you want to scale up or down with the agents?
That's also one of my favorite ones. We understand gaming exceptionally well, I think, compared to our competitors. And so we ask for a 4-week ramp up, ramp down. We usually can scale down sooner if we can get the agent to other projects and we work in conjunction with you. But from a legal perspective, we need to manage things with you and ourselves. And so we ask. And so from a Helpshift player support human contract point of view, we do not have onerous contracts in place. We don't force people to sign up for 3 months or 6 months or a year. Literally 4 weeks notice to ramp up, ramp down, or scale the project down completely. We understand that gaming is an unknown and it can be very quick. Also understand that unplanned spikes or unplanned need for things means there are other ways we can help. So whilst you're getting a brand new agent in, so these are planned ramp ups and ramp downs, but sometimes there's an unplanned spike. Then we use other mechanisms, like you may suddenly have an event and something over the weekend spiked and you need extra because that extra 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 tickets came in. We use the existing force and our other capacities worldwide to tackle that short-term problem. You don't have to ramp up a new agent just for that, and 4 weeks later, you're still dealing with a backlog. You deal with that backlog instantly. So that's an unplanned instance that would be short-term. But a genuine scale process, you can ramp up within 4 weeks.
Great, thanks, Peter. And I think that we've got our last question here in the Q&A screen. So where do you stand from Arabic language, as there's different slangs and wordings that can be used in machine learning for an AI and utilized by automation bot or AI bot?
Again, that's a super question. So AI is exactly that. It's artificial intelligence. It will learn what you teach it. And so if we're teaching it the wrong things, it'll learn the wrong things. So there is a layer that we can put in when you're training the engines. It's one of the services we offer is to help train up the engines so that we keep filtering out and doing the bad. So one of our really cool partners, one of our good partners on the trust and safety side is Community Sift, for example, now a Microsoft company. And actually, they're a customer of Keywords. I have 11 dedicated agents. One of the languages is Arabic, where we're testing Community Sift every month and helping them keep that whole database clean for all the slang that comes into what should not be used in the communities. So that's a skill, and you do have to do the same with AI. Right now, we're getting quite high accuracies across most languages, including Arabic, but there are cultural nuances and differences, and the language does shift. And so the AI is capable of moving with that shift, but it does need that layer of editing so that it can start to learn what the right things are. Once you get it on track, it'll know what to ignore going forward. But it's a constant process. that you do have to invest in, but it doesn't mean you have to have someone there full-time doing it all the time. It's a process over time, and we're very, very good at being able to manage that. But that's a great question, because you will definitely find that it's not as good as native. And by the way, even if people are totally native speakers, they come from a different region and have a slightly different cultural bias, they themselves will also sometimes miss on some of these things that they don't understand, which you see in English from different regions of the world, Arabic from different subsets, the same in Japanese, the same in Chinese. So it's a challenge overall for support.
Great.
Any other questions?
Yeah, thank you for those questions. I think we've answered all of them, and we're almost out of time. But Peter, there was one more thing that you wanted to share with our listeners, didn't you?
Yes. So one of the services we do is what we call health check, and that's separate from a end-to-end service where we do everything for you. You can pick our brains with all the experience we have. You can actually look at, we can come in and work with you to check out your current setup and do a gap analysis. The health check is literally a gap analysis around what is good with the setup. And this is agnostic. It doesn't matter what systems you have. We'll come in agnostically and work out this process with you, give you back a full report, which can be a roadmap, whether you use with us, whether your current setup, it's not a problem. We do charge for that service. But for anyone reaching out today from post this talk to your account manager or your customer success manager, the first two that do that will do a free health check for you. These can range anywhere from 3,000 euros to 5,000 euros, depending on the hours spent and the complexity of what we're working with. And it's a great investment in just doing an outside view of how well am I structured and what should I be looking to do with my program, whether you, as I said, whether you use our services or not. So yeah, take advantage. Those of you who want to talk to us about some stuff, be first to get in the queue, and then you can have the health check. And again, great to be able to talk to you, and thanks for the questions and thanks for listening.
Yeah, that's our time. And audience, we continue to support you, and we're here for you if you have any follow-up questions. And Peter, thank you so much for joining us today. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for watching. So long. See you next time.